Have you ever wondered why, despite all our progress, all our knowledge, and all our aspirations for peace, we still find ourselves entangled in wars, time and again? From the tribal clashes of our ancient ancestors to the world shaking global conflicts of the 20th century, and even to the digital and ideological wars of today, war seems to be a persistent part of our human story. Today, we dive deep into a powerful question: the war instinct. Are humans hardwired to fight? Let us begin by stepping back in time, far, far back into the mist of prehistory. Picture early humans, scattered in small hunter-gatherers group, surviving in a harsh and unpredictable world. Life was about resources, food, water, shelter, and safety. When two groups encountered each other, the results were not always friendly. Anthropologists have found evidences: fractured skulls, mass graves, trauma in bones that shows violence was not uncommon even in our earliest days. In fact, one of the most famous archaeological sites, the Jebel Sahaba cemetery in Sudan, shows remains of people who lived over 13,000 years ago, many of whom died from violent injuries. Some scholars suggest that the capacity for war might have evolved because it offered evolutionary advantages. If your group was stronger, better coordinated, and more willing to fight, you might take over better land or protect your territory more effectively. That group would survive and pass on its trait, both physical and psychological. Could it be that, buried deep in our DNA, there is something that prepares us for conflict? This idea is not new. Thomas Hobbes, the 17th century philosopher, famously described human life in the state of nature as solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. He believed that without society and laws to restrain us, humans would naturally fall into conflict. His vision, through Grimm, suggests that war is a kind of default state, held in check only by civilization. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. War is more than just instinct. It's also deeply cultural. And this is where things get interesting. If we look around the world, we see massive variations in how societies treat violence. Some societies have traditionally been peaceful for generations, like the Semai people of Malaysia or the Batak of Malaysian rainforest, who are known for their non-violent ways. Others, like the Yanomami of the Amazon, have long histories of inter-village conflict. This suggests that while the potential for war might exist in all of us, whether we act on it depends heavily on culture, environment, and social structure. Let's take a modern example: Nazi Germany, one of the most horrifying instances of organized violence in human history. How did ordinary people participate in such cruelty? How did an entire society come to support war and genocide? Historian Christopher Browning's book, Ordinary Man, explores this by studying a German police battalion responsible for mass shootings of Jews. He found that many of these men were not fanatics or psychopaths. They were regular middle-aged guys, fathers, husbands, neighbors, and yet, under the right or wrong conditions, group pressure, obedience to authority, dehumanization of the enemy, they committed atrocities. That's the terrifying part. War is not just caused by sociopaths, it's caused by systems that make violence acceptable, even noble. The way we label others as enemies, the way propaganda works, the way group identity shapes our morality. All of this shows that war is not just about biology, it's also about how we think. Let's dive into that psychology a little more. One major factor is tribalism. Humans are social animals. We crave belonging, and we often define our identity based on groups, race, religion, and nationality, political party. Once we divide the world into us and them, it becomes dangerously easy to justify harm against them. This is called moral disengagement. When the other side is seen as less human, less worthy, we become capable of things we would never do to our own. Consider the Rwandan genocide in 1984. Over 8 lakh people were slaughtered in just 100 days. Neighbors killed neighbors. Friends turned on each other. Why? The seeds of division were planted years before the colonial powers had created artificial ethnic categories between Hutus and Tutsis. Over time, propaganda painted Tutsis as cockroaches, and once that dehumanization was complete, mass violence followed. This was an ancient instinct, it was engineered hatred. Still, some argue that deep evolutionary trait make us vulnerable to this kind of manipulation. Our brain evolved to spot threats and favor in our group. It helped us survive in the wild. But in modern world, that same wiring can be exploited. But let us ask, if humans are hardwired for war, why do we also feel so much immense pain from it? Why do we suffer moral injuries, deep grief from killing or losing others? Clearly, something in us resists war too. We are not cold-blooded warriors by nature. In fact, anthropologist Margaret made a powerful argument in the early 20th century. She said that war is an invention, like marriage or writing. It's a social construct. If war was an invention, she argued, then peace could be one too. Let's not forget, war is also incredibly organized. It requires training, discipline, planning. Think of modern militaries. Soldiers aren't just told to kill. They are trained to do so under strict codes, hierarchy and control. That's not raw instinct, that's structure. And often soldiers themselves don't want to kill. During the World War II, studies found that a large number of American soldiers deliberately missed when firing their weapons. They couldn't bring themselves to kill, even in combat. So, where does this leave us? Are we peaceful creatures corrupted by systems, or violent creatures tamed by culture? The truth is likely both. We are capable of violence, but we are also capable of love, compassion, and restraint. Our instincts don't force us to war, but they make us vulnerable to it, especially when mixed with fear, ideology, or greed. Take the Cold War, for example, a period where the entire world was on the brink of nuclear annihilation, and yet, through diplomacy, back channels, and sheer human will, we avoided it. That shows our ability to hold back, even when the stakes are existential. And let's look at another inspiring example. Post-genocide Rwanda. After 1994 horror, the country faced a choice, more violence or reconciliation. Through a process called the Kaka, community courts were formed, and many perpetrators confessed their crimes. Victims and killers often lived side by side again. The country still bears scars, but it chose healing. That's not instinct, that's will. Let's now think personally. What is your own reaction to conflict? Do you feel anger? Do you feel fear? Or do you seek to understand? The battlefield is not always in the desert or the forest. It can be our homes, our streets, our hearts. Each time we choose empathy over hate, each time we step back instead of striking, we are rewriting our story. We are proving that while we may have the capacity for war, we also have the capacity to rise above it. So are humans hardwired to fight? The evidence shows that we have the potential, but most importantly, we have the power to choose. And that choice, perhaps more than any instinct, is what defines us. Thank you for staying with me through this long reflection. The topic of war is heavy, but it's also essential, because in understanding why we fight, we can learn how to stop. Let's build a future where the war instinct doesn't win. Let's build peace, not just as an absence of war, but as a presence of justice, of empathy, of understanding. And that perhaps is the greatest victory we can achieve.